I mean, you almost had to know that this one was coming. As most of us know, Jordan Binnington has been giving us more moments to compile on this list for part 2. So much so that his own head coach has called him out for his antics. More on that later. In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off last year, and in case this is your first time tuning into this series, we're going to be going over some moments from Binnington in which he acted like a baby. And with that, here are 6 times that Jordan Binnington acted like a baby. Most of us can remember Aaron Dell, the goalie that made headlines last season for injuring Drake Batherson. When he wasn't trying to injure people, Dell actually came out of his crease and hit his opponents, which is rare to see from a goalie. Anyways, you could say that Binnington took a page out of Dell's playbook. During a game that took place this season in St. Louis, the netminder had an itch to do something drastically different from tending the goal. More than halfway into the second period, Binnington saw an opportunity to try and attempt to lay the body, as they say. Well, you could say that the size difference between him and the opponent he tried to hit was pretty substantial. Jordan Staal, who is listed at 6'4" and 220 pounds, outweighs Binnington by nearly 50 pounds, as Binnington is listed at a slim 174. Therefore, the obvious conclusion was that Binnington had underestimated how hard it would be to actually knock Staal off balance. Staal, who seemed rather confused about the incident, simply skated away while Binnington sought to recover and get back into the crease. Just like in part 1, we'll quickly be seeing a trend. When Binnington is having a rough night and has let in a few goals is when he starts trolling the opposing team. By the time the second period concluded, the goaltender had already let in 4 goals against the New York Islanders. Ilya Sorokin, who was the opposing netminder, had only made 1 costly error, and this was likely something that Binnington resented. While he was making his way to the locker room, Binnington first had words with Brock Nelson, and it was directly after that that Binnington decided to lay into Sorokin, just enough to get his attention.
Nervous?
It's not every day that one polarizing player decides to punch another polarizing player in the face. However, during a contest earlier this season, the unprecedented became reality. By the middle frame of play, the Edmonton Oilers had managed to score the first goal of the game. This left St. Louis trailing and a disgruntled Binnington between the pipes. After Leon Draisaitl tried to set up Evander Kane for a goal, Binnington decided to take a jab at Kane following the botched attempt. Unfortunately for the Oil though, the officials didn't seem to notice the altercation and the penalty went uncalled. Remember what I mentioned before? Whenever things aren't going to Binnington's liking is when he decides to stray from just tending the goal. And it wasn't hard to realize that Binnington was having a tough start in the Steel City by the first period's end, as the Penguins had managed to get the puck past him 3 times in less than 20 minutes. For the netminder, this had to be frustrating, but instead of concentrating on bettering his game, he decided to cross the line yet again. Jason Zucker, who was trying to forecheck deep in the Blues' end, ended up falling into the boards in horrific fashion. Reason being, Binnington decided to throw his opponent off balance by purposefully clipping him as he tried to go around the cage. Even though Coach Mike Sullivan and company tried to get a power play, they weren't able to. However, that doesn't mean that Zucker and his team weren't able to get their revenge. Usually the status quo, when it comes to pulling goalies, is whenever he lets in the 4th goal, and none have been scored on the other end. However, for some reason, head coach Craig Berube decided to leave his goaltender in net until he slipped up again. Following the 5th goal being tallied after 18 shots from the opposition, Binnington finally got the hook. But it wouldn't be Jordan Binnington if there wasn't some sort of outburst following the yank from the coach.
Do I look nervous?
While the netminder was making his way off ice, Binnington could be shown chirping the LA Kings bench in the process. Well, here we are, folks. As we've saved the best moment definitely for last. Remember that whole Zucker incident we covered earlier? It just so happens that Binnington was just getting started and wasn't finished during the pot MPA at all. Whether it be his antics in the first period, his performance, or both, Berube decided to swap tendies after the fourth goal was scored by Pittsburgh. After seeing Jason Zucker get his revenge, Binnington was likely already pretty frustrated. Top that off with the embarrassment of being pulled, and the goaltender began to do as Ludacris likes to say, act a fool, as Binnington could be seen chirping the Penguins bench thereafter. In result of his actions, Binnington was dealt a misconduct for, quote, inciting, end quote. However, it wasn't just the officials that took issue with the netminder's actions. Following the game, Berube expressed how frustrated he was with Binnington's antics. "It's gotta stop," Berube said. "It doesn't help any. Just play goal. Stop the puck." In conclusion, it's hard to say if the coach's comments will deter Binnington from having his outbursts. My personal prediction is that he may clean up his act temporarily, but we haven't seen the end of the behavior in the slightest. I'm being optimistic, because we need some ammo for part 3. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see y'all next time.